Record button. All right, and now we are ready to roll. So hello everyone and welcome to today's Introduction to LEAP webinar. My name's Deborah and I'm the Director of Member Services at CCS, and I've been leading the Intro to LEAP training series for both of your libraries. So in today's session, I'll be walking you through the LEAP interface and demoing key functions within the LEAP software. So today's session is a demo rather than a hands-on session. But after the session's over, I'm going to share an activity worksheet with everyone who's registered for the session. That way you can practice the skills that you'll see here today. So look for that email coming your way either late today after the session or tomorrow morning. So we do have a lot to cover today, and we only have 2 hours to do it in. I know that as we go along, you're going to have a lot of questions about CCS, about Polaris, about LEAP, about the migration. So when you do have a question, feel free to just pop it into the chat, or if you're comfortable, you can also unmute yourself to ask it out loud. So I'll do my best to kind of see those questions and answer them as they come up. So again, ask your questions. We love to hear them. Oh, and Michelle says in the chat here, Mount Prospect staff, they have activity sheets for you as well. So thank you, Michelle. So here is our agenda for today. Now today's demo will specifically focus on how to log into and navigate the LEAP interface, how to search for different kinds of records, how to check out and check in materials, and how to place holds in LEAP. So it's a long agenda, a long session, but once we get halfway through our agenda, we will go ahead and take a 5 to 10 minute break so that you can step away from your computer for just a quick brain and movement break there. So again, 2 hours, but we'll stop in the middle for that break to give you all a little bit of a rest. So today we will be working in LEAP, or I'll be demoing LEAP. And LEAP is the the web-based staff application for Polaris. Polaris is the ILS software that runs our library, and LEAP is just one tool in that Polaris ecosystem. So most staff at your libraries will use LEAP for your day-to-day activities, for things like checking in and out, working with patron accounts, searching for materials, and placing holds. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to open up Training LEAP. So today and leading up to your go live, you will be practicing your skills in Training LEAP. So we have 2 versions of our database. We have our live production version, which you'll be using once you go live in CCS in October. And then we also have our training or our test environment. So the training environment, it's our sandbox. It's where we can practice, we can play, we can try out anything without risk of breaking things or messing things up. So you will have access to our training database even after you go live. So it will always be available for you to use to practice your skills. So as we kind of go along and log in, I'm going to show you a couple ways you can verify that you're working in training and not our live database. So let's take a look here at our LEAP login screen on the center of this page. Now on the LEAP login page, you'll see 2 fields. You'll see a username field and then a password field. So all of you should have received your Polaris username and password from your library. Your username will begin with your library's 3-letter Rails code, and then will be followed by your first initial and your last name. So for Mount Prospect, your library's 3-letter code is MPK, and for Waukegan, your library's 3-letter code is WKK. So everyone who is accessing patron data in LEAP will be provided an individual login and password, and we use individual logins and passwords to make sure that our database is staying secure. So LEAP can be accessed from any device with a web browser and an internet connection. So we moved to individual usernames to make sure that we could easily delete access for staff who no longer work for your library. So it is really important that you keep your username and your password confidential and that you don't share it with your coworkers. So here on the Training LEAP page, I've already entered in my username, which for me is CCSD Wishmeyer. and then I've entered in my password. So once I've completed those two fields to log in, I'll just click this sign in button. Now, once I click that sign in button, I'm taken to a screen where I'm asked to select my library branch. Now, it's really important here that you pick the right branch. Both Mount Prospect and Waukegan, you have three branches. Mount Prospect, you have your main library, your South branch, and your pickup lockers. And Waukegan, you also have three branches, your main location, the Hingston branch, and your home delivery branch. So when you're logging in, just make sure you are clicking the correct branch at login. So for today, I am going to work in Mount Prospect's main branch, which is Mount Prospect Library. Once you pick your branch, you'll then be asked to select your workstation name. So the workstation is the name or location of the computer that you're working at. So a couple notes about workstations. Again, the workstation is the name of the computer you're at. So we can see here in Mount Prospect's list of workstations, they have some Circ workstations, some Fiction workstations, some desks, etc. So again, when you log in, you will pick the workstation that matches the computer that you're working at. Now, there are a few settings that are tied to a workstation, including which receipts and slips are printed. So it's really important that you choose the right one when you log in. For today at Mount Prospect, I am just going to work at their Circ 1 workstation. And I'll click Continue. So once I select my branch and my workstation, I'll see another message, this little alert message, and I'm in training right now. So this notice is telling me that I'm entering the training database. So it says, this is the training server, last data sync on May 3rd, 2024. So this notice is just again confirming I am working in training, and we'll see today the data here is a little bit older. It's a few months old. So don't be alarmed if maybe you see some outdated content here in training. So the data is again from prior to May. So here I'm going to click Continue. And then I am officially logged into Leap. So let's go over some of the highlights of this Leap interface. Now at the top of my Leap screen, I'm going to see a red banner. We call this section of Leap the Leap header. So when you see a red Leap header, that's a visual cue to you that you are working in our training database. Our production database has a royal blue header. So that's how you'll be able to tell and verify, again, you are working in the right place. Now on the left-hand side of my Leap screen, you'll see three horizontal lines. Clicking those three lines will open up what's called the Workform Tracker. The Workform Tracker will list all of the records that you currently have open, and it will also display any of your recently closed records as well. So it's really nice if you accidentally close out of a record and you need to go back to it, you can always open up your Workform Tracker and quickly retrieve that record you closed. If you'd like to, you can use this little pushpin icon to permanently expand the Workform Tracker. So it'll just always keep it open on that left-hand side. So that's your preference if you like to keep it open. I like to hide mine. So to the right of the Workform Tracker, you can see two quick access buttons here. One for check-in. So if you click that button, it will take you to the check-in workform. And the other quick access button is to create a new patron record. So again, if you click that new patron button, it will open a new patron registration workform. So those are two handy little links right there, just for quick access to some of those most commonly used functions. Now up on the Leap header, we also have the quick search box. As we'll talk about in just a minute, the quick search box can be used to quickly scan or search for records. So you'll learn all about that in just a bit. Now, to the right of the quick search box, you have a find link. Clicking that find link will open up the more advanced find tool where you can conduct some kind of more complex searches with some filtering options. Again, you are going to learn all about the find tool in just a bit. Now, if we go to the right on that LEAP header, you will see a new drop-down menu. This is where you would go to create some new record types, including new bib records. You can also create new patron records here, new record sets, and so on. To the right of that new menu, we have the Utilities menu. The Utilities menu contains links to some different modules within LEAP, including the pick list, the request manager, holds queue, and some background processing tasks, as well as mark import. So the Utilities menu contains a lot of really helpful links. Now to the right of that, we have the Help menu. Here is where you would find under LEAP topics, the Polaris documentation. So they have really great help files if you have questions on how to complete a certain task. The keyboard option will open up a shortcut. So this will show you all of the existing keyboard shortcuts that can be used with LEAP. So if you like to use your keyboard instead of your mouse, that might come in handy for you. And then we have a little About section, which will just give you information about the current software version that we're on here. Now, all the way to the right in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see my username. And if I click my username menu, I'll have access to the logout button, which is always important to do at the end of your workday, and access to some personal settings for your account. Pause and see if any questions came in about the interface. All right, I don't see any. It's pretty simple to navigate, so hopefully you'll see that throughout today's session. So then we're going to jump right into searching then. The ability to search is the core skill you will need to navigate LEAP. And there are two different ways to search in LEAP. We're going to cover both today. The first is searching via that quick search box that I pointed out on the LEAP header. And then the other is using the more advanced find tool. So we're going to start with that quick search box. Using that quick search box, again, right here on that LEAP header, you can search in two ways. You can scan or key in an item barcode, patron barcode, or an ISBN or UPC to quickly locate and open the matching record. You can also use that quick search box to perform a keyword search for both bibliographic and patron records. So let's start with the first one, scanning a barcode. I'm going to demonstrate how to scan and open a patron record using that quick search box. So to scan a barcode, you'll just place your cursor in that quick search box, and then you can scan or type in the barcode you're looking for. So here, I'm just going to type in my test barcode and then tap enter. And this will automatically open the matching record. So again, very easy to use that quick search box to scan, again, either a patron or an item barcode. So we can see here, I am here in my patron account. So I just want to take a moment to walk you through the layout of a patron record. A patron record in LEAP contains important information about that patron's account. So by default, a patron record will open to the Checkout tab, and that's so that staff can very quickly begin checking out materials to the patron as soon as they open up that card. Now, the patron record is organized into different tabs, and each tab in this patron record contains different information about that account. You can click any of these tabs to view the information that is held in that tab. So for example, if I click into the Out tab, I'm going to see a list of all of the materials that this patron has checked out. So we can see here, my test account has 7 items checked out to it. And I can also very quickly see here up at the top that 3 of those items are actually overdue. The Account tab contains information about fines and fees that that patron owes. So again, we can see here my test account currently owes $7. One other tab that you'll likely be looking at is the Holds tab. The Holds tab will contain a list of all of the patrons' active or outstanding holds. So again, we can see that my patron account has 8 holds, and we have 1 hold that is actually held or ready for pickup. So now up at the top of the patron record, we do have the patron's name. Listed underneath that is the patron's barcode, and then below that is the library that the patron is registered to. To the right of the patron's name, we have a little information icon. If you click on that icon or hover over it, you'll see some additional information about that patron account, including their birthday and age, their address, phone number, email address, and their card expiration date. Now, to the right of the patron's registered library, you will see a link to any blocks or notes that might be attached to this patron record. The links will appear red for blocks or this orangey yellow color for notes if the patron has a block or note present. So we can see here that my patron account has a block. And if I click on it, I can read through what those blocks are. Now in Polaris, there are hard blocks and soft blocks for patron accounts. And this test patron of mine has a soft block. That's really just a notification for staff. It's really more informational. It's not actually going to block the patron from taking any actions. I owe $7 and I have 1 hold ready for pickup. Now, there are hard blocks in Polaris that would block a patron from completing actions like checking out new materials. Examples of those are, the patron has been submitted to collection agency, or they owe over your library's fine threshold that you block at. So maybe they owe $50. The same with notes. If you want to view any notes attached to that patron's account, you'll just go ahead and click that hyperlinked note text there. Now, if you need to update or view the information that the patron provided to your library at the time that their card was registered, you can click the registration button in the right upper side of the patron record. This will open up the registration view. And again, this view contains all the information that was input by staff when their card was created. So you'd have things like expiration date, birth date, you would have their address, their email, their notification preference, and so on. Here is also where you would go to edit the patron's password or PIN number. You can easily do that by clicking that reset password button on the right-hand side. So if a patron ever needs help resetting their PIN, that's the easy way to do it right there. So when you're done working with a patron record, one thing I always want to remind everyone of is that make sure you close records when you're done working with them. So you click that close button in the upper right-hand corner. So that is really important thing to do in Leap is to always close records when you're done and you don't need them anymore. So the first person to open a record in Leap or in the staff client will lock that record for editing. So when a record is locked for editing, no one else in the consortia can edit that record until you close it. So it is always a good reminder and best practice to close a record if you're done with it. That way, you don't lock it for somebody else. So hopefully you saw it's so easy to open up a patron record by scanning the barcode. So let me show you how to scan an item record. So again, just like with a patron record, if I want to scan an item record to open it up, I'll just place my cursor in that quick search box and I'll scan or type in the item barcode I need to look up. So this time I'm just gonna copy that item barcode and then that matching item record will open up automatically. So here we know we're in an item record because it says item record in that upper left-hand corner. So a little bit of detail about item records. An item record represents a single physical item in your library's collection. So just like a patron record, an item record is organized into different tabs. And each tab in an item record contains different pieces of information about that item. You can click through all of the different tabs to view the information that is held in that tab. Now, at the top of this item record, we can find some of the really important information about that item. We have the barcode, we have the call number, we have the shelf location so that you can easily find where it's located within your library. We also have the item circulation status. So that circulation status will tell you what the status of the item is. Is it available? Is it checked out to a patron? Is it on the hold shelf? Is it lost? Is it missing? Etc. So you can get a lot of really valuable information right here at the top of that item record without clicking into any additional tab. So a few of the tabs that you'll have access to here in, again, an item record is the Details tab. The Details tab contains all of the important configuration fields for this item. Again, it will include the shelf location, the material type, the loan period, the cost or the price, the number of renewals, and then at the bottom, some hold settings. Now, in an item record, we also have the Circulation tab. The Circulation tab will give you info about this item's checkout history. So if it is currently checked out, you will see here right in the center the current borrower listed. So for this item, the current borrower is my test account. If the item was previously checked out, you would also see a last use patron as well. So you would see the previous borrower. So again, that's what you can see in Leap, the current borrower and the previous borrower, which is really helpful for troubleshooting issues. Another tab I just want to call your attention to in an item record is the History tab. The History tab will contain up to 2 years rolling history for any actions taken with this item. So you'll see things like the item was checked out, or checked in, or trapped for a hold. So you'll get a lot of really good details about the item here in the History tab. You'll have the date that that transaction or action was taken. You'll also have the username and location that that action occurred. So again, very helpful if you're troubleshooting some issues with a record. Lastly, I want to show you the Statistics tab here in this item record. The Statistics tab will give you high-level information about this item's activity, including year-to-date circulation and lifetime circulation. Now, one really cool thing about Leap is that within each record, there are hyperlinks to other records that are related to this record. So, for example, this item record is attached to a bibliographic record. And a bibliographic record, or bib record for short, represents the title or work and contains all of that descriptive data about the title. So here in this item record, I can see the bib control number that this item is attached to. And if I want to, we can see that it's blue and it's hyperlinked. I can click that link and it would actually open up that bibliographic record. So that, again, really quick and easy access to get from record type to record type. So a handy tip for when you are navigating Leap, when you see that blue hyperlinked text, it means you can open that record right here from this record. So when, again, you're done with the record, you're going to go ahead and click that close button to close out of that record. Now, if you have multiple records open and you want to close them all at the same time, one really easy way to do that is to use your work form tracker. So I'm going to click those 3 lines in my upper left-hand corner to open up my work form tracker. At the very bottom right-hand corner of that work form tracker, you can see this Close All link. If I click that Close All, it will close every record I have open. So if you have more than one record open at a time, using that workflow tracker, you can just close them all at once and save yourself a couple of clicks. All right, so we've walked through how to scan a patron barcode, how to scan an item barcode, and hopefully we're feeling pretty comfortable with that. Again, it's very simple to do. So let's go ahead and move into that second way you can search in the quick search box, which is through a keyword phrase search. Next, I'm going to pause and see if any questions came in. All right, none yet, but if you have questions, don't forget, just pop them in that chat and we can answer them as we go along here. All right, so we are going to go through how to do a keyword search using this quick search box here in your Leap header. So when a search term is typed into the quick search box, Leap will attempt to locate matching patron records or matching bibliographic records using a phrase search. So let me show you an example. I am going to type Percy Jackson into the quick search box, and you can see that as I'm typing my search terms, the quick search box is displaying some automatic suggestions for both patrons and bibliographic records, if matches are found that match my search terms. So we see that for Percy Jackson, we've got several matching bibliographic record suggestions. And then we do also have a patron account recommendation as well. Now you can click on any of these automatic suggestions to launch a search in the Find tool for that item. If there's only a single match for the term you've entered, it will automatically open that matching record. So let's say I am looking for a patron record for someone by the name of Percy Jackson. I see this suggestion here. I can just click that suggestion and it will automatically open that matching account. And there was only one, so it was able to just open that single record. Now, let me just redo those terms in my search box. If none of the suggestions here are what you're looking for, you don't have to click one of them. You can also just tap enter on your keyboard or click this little magnifying glass to launch a search for that term. Now, when you do that, Leap will just want to verify, are you looking for a patron or are you looking for a bib record? So let's say here I'm looking for a bibliographic record. If I click that, then Leap will launch the Find tool with a phrase search for the terms that I entered. So again, here we see Leap launched a bibliographic record search for my search terms, Percy Jackson. So then I could go through these results here until I found the record that I was looking for. So a few things to know about this quick search box. The quick search box is searching all index keyword fields. So for bib records, it would be searching fields like title, author, subject and genre heading, notes fields, summaries, and more. So it'd be searching several different fields in that bibliographic record. So it'd be looking through all that marked data. For patron records, we do have a few fields indexed as well. You can search for name, you can search by address, you can search by phone number, and email address. So if I type in my email address here, I can see that I have some patron records that match that search term. If I click one of the suggestions, again, it would launch my Find tool and initiate a search with my search term entered there. So the quick search box is completing or performing a phrase search, which means it's searching for your search terms as if there were quotations around your terms. So it's looking for records where your search terms appear together and in the same order that you typed them in. So be mindful of that. If you put too many search terms into your quick search box. So let's say I put in Percy Jackson, and then I also want to, maybe I try to put in the author's last name too. So I type in Reardon. We can see that I went from several suggestions for Percy Jackson, but then when I put in Reardon as well, my search suggestions get really low. And actually, it only finds a single record that has Percy Jackson and Reardon right next to each other. So you do have to be really careful using this quick search box not to combine too many different search terms. You can do that in the find tool, but here in the quick search, you've got to keep your search just a little simpler. Pause and see if we've got any questions coming in. I don't see any. I'm just going to do one quick more example of doing a quick search here. Let's say I want to type in another title, Flight of the Silvers. I'll just type my title into that quick search box, tap enter, and then again, Leap would launch the find tool. It would initiate a search using my search terms as a phrase search. So then I could look at my search results and hopefully find the title that I'm looking for. So that is a very high-level overview of how to search using that quick search box. I think everyone, once you familiarize yourself with Leap and get some practice in, you'll definitely figure out your favorite way to search for different kinds of records. So the next kind of search I want to talk about is searching via the find tool. So the find tool is Leap's more advanced search function. So we're going to explore that find tool, and I'm going to walk you through how to configure a search using that tool. So to open the find tool, you will just click the find link on that Leap header. And this will open up the find tool. Now you'll follow a few key steps to set up and generate your search in the find tool. And the first of those steps is to use these drop-down menus at the top of the find tool to select what and how you want to search. So the first drop-down option in this row is going to be your search database. So if I click here, if I click this first drop-down menu, it will open up a list of record types or objects that I can search for here in Leap. So the find tool allows you to search for several different kinds of records. We can search for patron records, we can search for bibliographic records, item records, hold records, even acquisitions records like suppliers and purchase orders. So again, to choose the record type or object you want to search for, you will just click that first drop-down column here in the find tool, and then scroll to find the record type you're looking for. Now you'll notice that when I opened the find tool, my find tool defaulted to searching patron records. And that's because patron records is selected as my default search database. So we can see here, when I open that dropdown, I've got a yellow star to the right of the patron record. Now, if I don't usually search for patrons, maybe the most common record type I search for is bib records. I can always change my default search database by selecting the star to the right of that record type. So if I always want to open the find tool to search bib records, I'll just click that star and then save my preference. Now, when I close and reopen the find tool, we can see that my search database defaulted this time to bib records instead of patron records. So that's a really good tip. Feel free to customize your find tool to what works best for you. Now, once you've selected the type of record that you want to search by, the next thing you'll do is just check and make sure your search mode is correct. Your search mode is that second drop-down menu. Most of the time, you are going to be doing a basic search. So today, I'm going to leave mine at basic search, but just know that there's some other search modes you can use, including SQL, power searching, and a browse search. The next drop-down menu is our qualifier column. So that's this third column here. And the qualifier column allows you to choose the specific field you want to search by. So for me, right now, the default is all keyword fields. So when all keyword fields is selected, the Find tool will search all index keyword fields for this record type. However, if you want to change the field that you want to search by, maybe you want to be a little bit more specific, you can click that qualifier column, and then you can go through the lists of fields that you want to search by. So let's say I want to search by title. I can select title from the list, and now what the Find tool will do is look for my search terms only in that field, in the title field. So the fourth and final column in the Find tool is called the Relation column. So this column determines how Polaris is going to link together your search terms or your search text. So there are 5 different relation options. And depending on what kind of record you're searching for and the qualifier you've picked, you might not always see 5 here. But based on my format here, I do see all 5 displayed. So I'm going to explain what each of these are. Keyword all is going to look for records that contain all of your search terms. So it's going to link your search terms together as if there were an and in between each term. Pause, I see a question come in. I see a question. Is there a way to search for title and author name in the same search string? That's a good question. Give me 1 minute. Let's finish going over these relations and then we can walk through how to do that. So hang tight, Anne. All right, so keyword all, we're going to look for records that contain all of our search terms. So, whatever terms you're looking for, it's going to look for a record that has every single one in it. Keyword any is going to look for records that contain at least one of your search terms. So it's searching as if you were using like an OR Boolean operator. So again, it's not going to necessarily find all of your terms. It will look for at least one of them. The phrase relation, now we talked about this just a bit ago. It will look for your search terms as if they were surrounded by quotations. So the Find tool will look for matching records where your terms appear together and in the exact same order you entered them in. Then we have our exact searches. So your exact search is going to look for records that contain just your search term or your terms in the field. So this can be really useful for short one-word titles like It by Stephen King. So it's going to look for, again, only your search term and nothing else in the field that you've selected. Then we have that exact truncated search. It's going to take your exact search and just put a wildcard at the end. So this will be looking for records where, in this case, I'm in a title search. A title field begins with my search term, but other words or other characters can follow the text I've entered in my search. So those are, again, those 5 relations. Honestly, a lot of times I just look for keyword all. But sometimes when you have a more complicated search or you're having a hard time narrowing down your list of results, those other relations can really come in handy. So once you've configured all of your drop-down menus, the next step would be to select or type in your search terms. So let's say I'm going to search for the title Starter Villain. Once I've entered in my search terms, I can click that little search icon or press enter on my keyboard to launch my search. So here we can see I have 6 results for my search of Starter Villain. Again, I'm doing a title search for a bibliographic record. In that bottom right-hand corner, I can see the total number of search results, which again is 6 for this particular search. And then we can see some different data points about these records that are displayed. So we have the title, the author, the format, And it's hard to read because it's cut off, but let me expand. We have number of linked items attached to that record, and we have number of active holds. So as you might have just seen, you can adjust the width of any of these columns here. So if you see information cut off, you can just hover over the end or beginning of that column, and you can expand it to make it larger or smaller. Now you can also resort your results here in the Find tool by clicking any of these column headers. So if I wanted to sort my results by, well, it's probably not helpful to sort by title because they're all the same title. Let's say I wanted to sort by linked items. I'll just click that linked items header, and we can see it automatically resorts my results by largest to smallest for that field. So take advantage of those different sort options here. Now, some of this information you see here might not be relevant to you, or maybe you feel like it's unnecessary to be displayed and take up some valuable real estate here in the Find tool. You can always customize your Find tool columns by clicking this three-line menu here, like a little hamburger menu, and opening up your column settings. So again, right to the right of your search bar, you have these 3 lines. If you click them, it opens up a menu, and you can click your column settings to modify your preferences here. So again, I am searching bibliographic records, so I see some fields displaying that are tied to that. If I do not want to see, let's say, the control number, I'll just uncheck the box next to that field. Maybe I don't need ISBN either. I'll just uncheck the box next to ISBN, and then I can click Save. Now you also have the ability to permanently adjust the column width. So if you're finding that the title field is too big, maybe it's taking up too much real estate, you can select the title field on the left, and then on your right-hand side, you can actually change the number or the space that field's given. So let's say I want it to be just 8 instead of 10. I can update that, click Save, and now we can see my title field is slightly smaller than it was before. And I don't see my ISBN or control number here either. So any modifications you make to your settings here in the Find tool are tied to your username. So feel free to make whatever changes you would like. Now we got a question from Anne who asked, can you search for title and author name in the same search string? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I cannot in this current search because I'm specifically searching the title field. But if you want to combine multiple keywords into one, I would recommend then searching your qualifier as all keyword fields. So then here I could type in Startervillian, and I could type in Scalzi and do keyword all, and then it would pull up records that had all of those terms in, both the author's name and the title. That's how I like to search. So I do that a lot, is just type in the author and type in the title, doing just keyword all and searching all keyword fields. So you can continue to do that if that's your preference. So Anne, hopefully I answered your question. If you have additional follow-ups, just pop them in the chat and we'll continue to work on that. So let me do another search here. Perfect. All right, let me search for Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. So now we can see when I search for Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, now I've got a lot of results. I can see in my bottom right-hand corner, I have 130 results, which is way more than the 6 I had when I searched for Startervillian. And I have a mix of formats here. I've got e-content, I've got Blu-ray, I've got books and DVDs. So maybe all I want is the Blu-ray, and I really want just the copies that are owned by my library. So we can easily do this by applying a filter. And filters are really great and really helpful when you're confronted with a lot of results for your search. So Applying a filter again will help you refine your search results by only returning records that match the criteria you set. So you'll get just a smaller, more relevant list of titles for you to work for. So to apply a filter, you will click this funnel icon to the right of your search box. So if I click this funnel icon, it will bring me to our search filter view. Now I can click this green button to add a condition or a new filter. So if I click that button, I am brought to a drop-down menu. From this drop-down menu, I can select to filter by a specific field. So the filters that you'll see here are going to vary depending on what type of record you're searching for. So right now I'm working in a bibliographic record. So the fields that I can filter by are related to that kind of record. But if I was searching for, let's say, a patron record, I would see different filters here for that kind of search. So for my search, let's say I want to only limit my results to titles where Mount Prospect owns a copy. The filter I would use to do that is the assigned branch filter. So I'm going to select assigned branch from my dropdown. Now, when I select assigned branch as my filter, we can see that I now have a dropdown menu populated. And if I click that little caret, I will see a list of all of the branches currently in CCS. So I would need to scroll down my list until I found Mount Prospect. And if I wanted to, I could select more than one option. So maybe I wanted to look at items owned by the main location and also items owned by the South branch. So I can select both of those and then click this apply button to narrow down my search. So you can see here now in that lower right-hand corner, we've now got our search limited to just 14 records out of 130. So we cut out, 115 or 116 records. So that's already a much easier batch of records for me to go through to find the record I'm looking for. Now we can see here in the search bar that my filter, my funnel icon is green. When you see the green filter, that means that it's active. So this filter is going to stick until you either clear it out or you close out of your find tool. So if I did another search right now for something else, that filter of assigned branch of Mount Prospect would still be applied. I'm going to click that filter again to show you one more thing here. You can add as many filters as you would like to here. So let's say I want to add another filter. I want to filter down by just Blu-ray records. To add a second filter, I'll click this green plus sign button to add another condition. From my drop-down menu, if I want to search by format, the Polaris vocabulary or jargon for that is called type of material. So I'm going to select type of material from my dropdown. And then from my list of options, I'm going to select Blu-ray, and maybe I'll select Blu-ray plus DVD as well, because either would come with a Blu-ray disc. When I've done that, I'll just click apply one more time. And again, now we can see it's applied that additional filter of type of material. I only here have Blu-ray records owned by Mount Prospect. So we filtered it all the way down to just 2 records. And I could look through these and find the one that I was looking for. Now, if you want to clear out your filter, again, you can just close the find tool and it will cancel that filter the next time you open it. Or you can just click that funnel icon and you can click this little trash icon in the upper right-hand corner, and that will remove all of the conditions or filters from your search. Now, if you are a really savvy searcher and you like to use these filters, you do have a lot of flexibility and ability to customize this. By default, Polaris or the Find tool will link together your filters by an and. But you can also, if you want to exclude certain things from showing up in your results, you can also use a not filter as well. So you're saying, give me this, but not that. So I found that to be helpful sometime, especially if want to maybe exclude e-content from my records. I'll do not ebooks. I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions about filters. Okay, we are making pretty good time here. So again, here we are in our find tool. Hopefully you'll see it's pretty easy to search for titles and apply those filters. The one thing I didn't show is how you open a result from the find tool. So if we are working here with this Lord of the Rings Return of the King Blu-ray copy, and we think that this first one is the record our patron is looking for, you can just double click or highlight that title and click the open button. And this will open up that corresponding record. So now here we've looked at patron records, we've looked at bib records. So let's go ahead and just take a peek through what this bib record, how it's organized. And before I do that though, I just want to call attention to one thing. So you might have seen when I opened this record that there was a red toast up at the top that said that this record was opened by someone else, by another staff member. And we can see that because we see this little red icon here, this red little like key icon. So if you remember at the beginning, I said that the first person who opens a record locks that record for editing. So this is an example of a record that's locked. That's why I have this little key right here. So I am able to open this record and view the information in it. But if I try to, for example, go to the Mark tab and edit this data, I'm not able to because someone else has it opened. Now, if you want to know who might have it open, you can just click that little key and it would open up a screen that told you which staff member had the record open. A lot of times it's not an issue if the record is locked. It does get a little tricky sometimes, perhaps if I'm a cataloger and I need to make an update to the MARC data, I wouldn't be able to until the previous staff member closed it out. So just a reminder as you're working in records, just make sure you close them when you're done. That way you're not preventing someone else from working on it. But back to the bibliographic record. So here we are in this bib record. And I'll point out a few highlights here. We can see the cover art or the cover image for this record. We have the title, and then we have the record's unique control number. So every record in Polaris has a unique control number that you can search by. So sometimes it's very handy to search by the record's control number. Now, just like the other records we've been in, we can see the information about this bib record organized into these different tabs. One tab that is very helpful is the Local Items tab. So the Local Items tab will show only your library's item records that are attached to this title. So here we can see all of Mount Prospect's items listed here. Now the All Items tab will show all items owned across the consortia. So here for this record, we see that Des Plaines and McHenry also own items attached to this record. Now this is a pretty small list of item records here. There's only 7 attached, but for some of the really popular titles, we can see upwards of, 400 to 500 item records attached. So it's really nice to have that Local Items tab so that you can just view your own library's records. Now, in the All Items tabs, though, sometimes you might want to see, hey, does a neighboring library have this item on shelf? In both item tabs, you can see some important information about all of the items attached, including the assigned branch or who owns that item, the shelf location at that library, as well as the call number. And then you can see the status of the item. So you're easily able to see, who has an item available, whose items are all checked out, and what those due dates are. One thing that is really helpful, especially when there's a really long list of items owned, is this little filter items search box in the upper right-hand corner here. You can use the search box to type in a keyword, and it will filter down the list of items below. So let's say, I only want to look at items that are owned by Displays. I can just type in Displays here, and it would winnow down that list of all items to just ones that match the term that I entered here. Again, much more helpful when you're working in a record that might have 400 plus item records attached. So yeah, our item tabs. One other tab I'll draw attention to here is the Mark tab. So this Mark tab is going to contain all of that wonderful mark data that is input into the record by your catalogers. So staff will be able to easily view this information if they'd like to, and those staff that have permissions to edit will be able to do so right here as well. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is how to get back to your search results. So let's say I opened this Blu-ray record and it wasn't what I was looking for. Maybe on this record, all of the Mount Prospect items are checked out and I want to go back to my search. If I want to go back to my search results, I will click this results button in the upper right-hand corner, and that will take me back to my find tool. So again, if you're in a record and you've gotten there from the find tool, you will always see this results button here in the upper right-hand corner of the record. You can click that to go back to your search. If you click close here, you will close out the find tool. And if you want to repeat your search, you just have to redo it again. So one of my favorite tips is always make sure you're clicking that results button. That way you can get back to your find tool results in case you need to continue to work with them. So one key tip to always remember. I'm gonna pause and see if we've got any questions coming in. All right, none yet, but we are surprisingly, somehow that went by very fast. We are halfway through our session right now. So I'm going to go ahead and have us take just a short break. Let's say we'll do like an 8-minute break. Let's reconvene at 2:35 on the dot. All right. So go ahead, feel free to take a little break, grab some water, grab a snack, and we'll come back together at 2:35 for that last half of the session. So thank you all. 7 minutes, 8 minutes. Go.
Thank you.
All right, it is 2:35, so we are back and we are ready for part two. So we are going to build on some of the searching skills we learned in the first section, and in this back half, we're going to go over checkout, check-in, and how to place holds. So this is really flying by. 2 hours seemed long, but gosh, we already have 1 hour under our belt, so I'm sure the second half will go fast too. So let's start with talking about checking out. So items are checked out from the patron record. So the first step to checking out materials to a patron is to open their patron account. So I'm going to go ahead and open my test patron account. And like we saw before, by default, the patron record should open up to their checkout tab. So to check out an item to a patron, you'll place your cursor in this item barcode field, and then you'll scan or you'll type an item barcode into that field. I'm going to go ahead and type in my item barcode, and I'm going to press enter. So here, when you're working with patron accounts, you may often see messages like this. So this message says, the patron is blocked. Do you want to continue? Now here with this patron they only have what we would call a soft block. So they owe $7, which is below our library's sort of fine threshold field. And then we have another soft block that they have one held item at their registered branch. So again, I can read these messages. I can see that these are just soft blocks. The patron doesn't have a hard block. And so I can click continue here. These are really, because they're a soft block, just informational and a heads up for staff who are working with the patron. You might want to tell the patron, hey, you also have a held item on the shelf. Let's go grab that too. So when I see this, I'll click continue. If you encounter a hard block, depending on your permissions, you may or may not be able to click through to override that. So some staff will have permission to go through that if you're maybe a supervisor or a manager, but some other staff may not be able to override hard blocks. So just be aware of that. So again, these are soft blocks, so I'm going to click continue to move forward, checking this item out to the patron. We saw that green toast quickly pop up at the top of the screen, saying that the checkout was successful. And here I can see some information about the title I just checked out. We've got the title and the due date. Now, any item checked out at your library will check out for your library's loan period values. So any item that's checked out at Mount Prospect, regardless of which library it came from, maybe it came from Algonquin, maybe it came from Evanston, it will check out for whatever your library's loan periods are. And the same for at Waukegan. So that is something that is very handy in a consortia environment. Now, if the patron only has one item, you'll go ahead and click this complete button in the upper right-hand corner of the patron's record to just finish that transaction and print a checkout receipt if your workstation has opted into that. Now, let's say the patron comes to the desk and they want to, maybe they're going on vacation and they want an extended loan. You do have the option to use this special loan period button in the right-hand corner of the checkout screen to apply a different loan period than what is set in the item record. So let's say that the patron I'm working with says, hey, can I have this next item for 6 weeks because I'm going on vacation and I'd really love to have it for that long. I can modify the item's due date before I check it out by clicking this special loan button. That will pop up a handy little calendar that I can use to select the item's due date from. So I can manually choose the date to which this item would be checked out. So let's say, maybe they want it till September 26th. If you want, you can also manually count how many days you want the loan period to be. So you can input that here. So maybe I wanted it to be 48 days, not 49 days. Underneath that, you'll see two options. You can choose to apply this adjusted or special loan period to only the next item, or you can choose to apply it to all remaining items for this patron. So I'm going to choose all items for this patron and click OK. We can see here on the right that that special loan period is currently in place. So when I check out this next item to the patron, it is going to check that item out for that extended loan period until September 25th. I'll do one more here. And again, because I chose to apply, this is a good example here. So we see here an example of an item block. So just like we encountered a patron block at the time of question or at the time of checkout, you can also see item blocks pop up when you're trying to check them out to a patron. So here we have a block that says the item is actually non-circulating, and do I want to continue? So depending on the item that I have in hand, I would likely cancel this because maybe it's a reference book that can't be checked out. Or if we think perhaps it was a mistake with that item record, I could click continue to override this item block. So always pay attention to those blocks at checkout, whether they're patron blocks or item blocks. Make sure you're reading them to determine whether you can move forward or not. So for here, if it's non-circulating, I'll just click cancel. Now, let's say that, we checked out this one item to September 25th with that extended loan period. Let's say now the patron says, hey, wait, what about that other one that I checked out? Can we also give that item an extended loan as well? You can easily do that with the reset due date button from the checkout screen. So I'm going to check the box to the left of Dragons Love Tacos. And once I check that box, I do now see this reset due date option activated. If I click that button, very similar to what we saw with that special loan button, I can use this handy calendar feature to select a new due date for the item. Once I've done that in the calendar, I'll click reset due date, and now we can see both items are due on September 25th. Again, I don't know how often you would use those features, but it is really handy to know that they're there just in case you might need to take advantage of them. So again, when you're done scanning all of the items for the patron or for the staff member, you can click that complete button in the upper right-hand corner to finish the checkout transaction. Now, when you click that complete button, it does close out the patron record, and I want to get back in there to look at a couple things in that patron account. So I'm going to open up my work form tracker, open up my recent tab, and just quickly reopen that patron record I was working with. So I love that about the work form tracker. It's just so handy to reopen a record that you didn't want closed in the first place. So now that I am here back in my patron account, I'm going to show you how to renew materials. So items can be renewed from a patron's out or overdue tab. So I'm here in my test record. I'm going to open up my test records out tab. So we can see I've got 9 items checked out here, but I do have 3 that are overdue. So perhaps the patron wants to renew these materials. Now, a few things that are really helpful here on this out tab. Of course, you have all of the information about the item the patron has checked out, including the original due date, the title. I want to draw your attention, though, to these 2 columns here. There is a renewals left column and a fills hold column. So when you're renewing materials, these columns can help you decide, or it can help you know before you click renew if you're going to be able to do that option. So the renewals left column will tell you how many renewals that item has available. So we can see here the patron has already renewed Amari and the Great Game once, but they do still have 1 of 2 renewals left. But now when we look to that fills hold column, we'll also see that this item does fill an outstanding hold request. So depending on that hold and the hold queue, I might not be able to renew this item for the patron. Now, if I go down to people we meet on vacation, we can see that for this item, I have 0 of 3 renewals remaining, which means that it's already been renewed 3 times. And so again, depending on the situation, I may not be able to renew this item again for the patron. But let's say the patron wants to extend this I am Walt Disney item. To renew this item, you can check the box to the left of that title and click the renew button. Again, I'm going to get this message saying my account is blocked, but again, it's a soft block, so I'll click continue here. Ooh, and this is telling me that I actually owe a fine for this item. This was unexpected, and I wasn't expecting this to pop up here. But here, if you happen to run into this, which I don't think you will, because you do not charge fines, you can at this screen decide whether you want to waive the fee, charge the account, or pay at the time of renewal. Actually going to cancel that because that was a bad example. Let me go ahead and renew one of the other items that I do not believe. Okay, so let's say I want to renew people we meet on vacation. I'm going to go ahead and renew that one. Now here's an example of an item that I receive a block for. So I'm told here that the renewal limit is exceeded. It's been renewed 3 times, and I have no renewals remaining. So here again, you can elect to continue with this renewal, which perhaps if it's your item and your patron, you may have sort of the ability to do that. But be cautious in a consortia. If this is an item belonging to another library, you would not want to override this just so it can go back to its home location. So you would click cancel in that scenario. And let's just pretend I want to renew this for the patron. So that's how you renew materials for patron. Again, you'll just check that box to the left of the title renewed, and then click that renew button. Now, I will say, for the most part, most materials checked out by your patrons will auto-renew. So in CCS, the system will attempt to auto-renew items 3 days before they are due. So again, if an item is due in 3 days in the morning, the system job will run. It will attempt to renew that item. If the renewal is successful, the patron will get a notice letting them know that their items were successfully renewed. Now, the system may not be able to auto-renew all items. A renewal can be stopped if the item can fill a hold for another patron. Sometimes the patron might have a block on their account, so that might prevent auto-renewal from happening. And sometimes, again, the patron has reached their maximum number of renewals. So in that scenario, again, auto-renew may not run. However, if there is a blocking condition 3 days before the items due, staff and patrons can always attempt to manually renew in between then and the due date. Pause and see if there are any questions there in the chat. I don't see any there. Again, to renew an item, you'll just check that box to the left of the title and click that renew button. Now, just like with checkout, there is also a special renew button. So if you want to renew an item until a very specific date, you can use the special renew button to select the date to which that item will be renewed. So again, if for some reason you need to set an alternate renewal date that would be different from the item's regular loan period, you can use that calendar to select that special renew date. Now, in the patrons account as well, I want to just call attention to one more feature you have access to if you need to adjust due dates. You can use the reset due date button from the out tab as well as the checkout tab. So let's say I want to extend this count all the way to Sesame Street material. It's due on the 15th, but the patron needs a couple more days. I can just check the box to the left of that title click that Reset Due Date button, and then manually change the date here, maybe till the 22nd. That is a way to extend a patron's due date without needing to use a renewal. So that is another option, again, at your disposal here in the patron's account. So that was checkout. Again, just looking to see any questions in the chat. All right, seeing none, I'm going to move on to check-in, but if you think of any questions, feel free again just to throw them in the chat as you think of them. So I'm going to move on to just showing you briefly how to check in materials. I'm going to close my patron account and get back to my LEAP landing page. So staff can access the check-in function by clicking that check-in button on the LEAP landing page. So this check-in button right here in that upper left-hand corner of the LEAP landing page. In the check-in header here, you'll see several different check-in types listed. The two main check-in types that staff will use are bulk and normal mode. Normal mode is typically used when you're working directly with a patron, and it allows staff to manage and collect overdue fees right from the check-in work form. Now, bulk check-in mode is designed to be used when you're working with a lot of items. So let's say you're checking in maybe a rails bin. So it will auto-apply overdue fees to the patron's account, and staff won't get the option to kind of manually decide what to do with each fee. Since most of our libraries in CCS, all of them but one, are fine-free, there will really be no difference between the two modes for your staff. You can use whichever one you prefer when you're checking in items. So I'm going to demo here checking in bulk mode. As I mentioned, bulk mode is typically used when you're checking in large amounts of items like those Rails return bins. And to check in an item, you will simply scan or key in the item's barcode into this item barcode box. If for some reason you need to check in an item and you don't have the barcode, you can also use this Find Tool link to find the matching item record you want to check in. So let me demo checking in a couple of items here in bulk mode. All right, so I checked in this item. We can see again that green toast that popped up at the top of the page, telling us that check-in was successful. Now, if we look here lower on the check-in screen, we can see information about the item I just checked in. We can see the barcode, we can see the due date, the original due date for the item. We can see the status change, so the item went from checked out to available. We can see if any fees were assessed, the title, and all the way to the right, we can also see the patron who had checked that item out. So if we needed to, I could open the patron's record right here from the screen. Now, as you're checking in materials, you may see some pop-up messages, and those messages are really important to pay attention to. So let's say I check in this item, and this item fills a hold request for another patron. So as I check in this item, again, I'm going to see this pop-up message letting me know it fills a hold request, and then it satisfies a hold request for this patron account. I'll be asked if I want to hold the item for the patron, at which point I would click yes. That would then trap the hold for the patron, and I would be prompted to print a hold slip to put in the spine. Now, if for some reason I did not want to move forward with this check-in, I could click cancel to stop the check-in process. Now, you have to be very careful here. If I click no, I will choose not to trap this hold for the patron. And then I will be prompted to reactivate it for that account. So we want to make sure we don't cancel that hold. But in this scenario, I absolutely want to hold this for the patron, so I will click yes. And here I will be prompted to print a hold label for that item so it can go on our hold shelf. So let me check in another item so we can show you a couple other messages you might encounter. So this item, when I checked it is being prompted to be put in transit. So the message is saying this item does not belong to this branch, and do you want to put it in transit to Algonquin? So in this scenario, I would click yes, and then I would pop a Rails transit slip onto this item, and I would put it in the Rails delivery bin, the outgoing bin, to be sent back to the home library. One more check-in example here in bulk mode. Another example here that this item needs to be put in transit, this time to Round Lake, and I will click yes. But I do want to call attention here to the fine charged. So this item had happened to be checked out at Mount Prospect, or not Mount Prospect, McHenry, which is our only fee charging library. So when it was checked in at Mount Prospect, there was a fee assessed. And because I am working here in bulk mode, the system automatically charged that fee to the patron's account. Now, if I wanted to just review that fee, I could very easily open the patron's record by clicking the patron's name all the way at the end of this row. So in this check-in work form, which I think you've seen, the item that's most recently scanned is going to appear at the top of the list. And again, staff can review all that important information about the item, like the due date, the previous patron, and so on. Now, if you needed to do a little bit more digging on one of these item records, you can just click on that title and it would open up the corresponding item record that you just checked in. To get back to your check-in screen, you would just click close, or you could just click that check-in button at the top of your page as well. And it would bring you right back to your check-in screen. Now, as I mentioned earlier, for Find Free Libraries, bulk check-in and normal check-in are essentially the same. But I did want to show you how normal mode handles fees differently from bulk check-in. So I'm going to switch over to normal mode here, and I'm going to check in an item that I know is going to apply an overdue fee. Here, I'm going to be prompted again. It doesn't belong at this location, so I'm going to send it back to its home location. Ooh, and that was unexpected. In this example I mocked up, it should have assessed an overdue fee, but it looks like it didn't work there. Let me go ahead and try one more example. Hopefully it will work correctly. All right, well, I apologize that this example did not work here, but what I had hoped to show you here is that when I checked in this material, I had wanted a pop-up to pop up that showed you how much money this patron owed in overdue fees, and demo to you kind of what you would do to resolve the charge at that fee. So I apologize, my example did not work in this training session, but if it had worked, you would have seen a pop-up that would have asked me to resolve charges. So I would have been able to say, waive these fees, charge the patron account, or pay the fees right now because the patron's here in front of me. So that is the different option that you will have in normal mode that you wouldn't have in bulk mode. And if we have a little time at the end, I'll see if I can get that to work properly. So I apologize for that oversight. Now again, we have normal mode and bulk mode. You probably have noticed a few other check-in options here. We have in-house check-in. So for in-house check-in, if let's say you track usage of libraries of items inside the library, you can do an in-house check-in to flag that an item was, for example, taken off the shelf and left at a table. So maybe again, you kind of count all of those in-house in-house uses by your patron. So you can go ahead, check those in here, and it will like flag in the item record that the item was used in the library. Inventory check-in is used by library when they are kind of doing a full inventory of your collections to make sure that everything on the shelf is actually there. So you can use this inventory check-in to, again, track which materials you've found on the shelf. Then there are missing part and damage check-in. These will be talked more about in the circulation section, the, the circulation training coming up, but there are ways to specifically check in damaged materials and materials that might be missing a piece. And then shelf-ready check-in is specifically used for acquisitions. So there is a way to check in those materials here. So if you are an acquisition staff member, Rachel likely reviewed that with you at your acquisitions training. I'm going to pause and see if questions came in on check-in. All right, no questions yet. We're very quiet on the questions in the chat here. Feel free, again, pop those in the chat as you think of them. So now that we finished covering checkout and renewals, we are going to talk about placing holds. Now, there are a variety of ways to place holds in LEAP, so we're going to run through some of those different variations. We can place holds from the bib record, from the patron record, and in some special circumstances, we can also place holds from the item record. So before we jump into placing holds in LEAP, let's talk about how they work. So I know you probably have some questions about holds are routed in a consortium environment. So in Polaris, we do have a setting called Prefer My Patron Enabled. And this setting prioritizes your library's items to fill your patron's holds. So that means your items are going to trap for your patrons first. Even if your patron is number 50 on the list, your item will trap for your patron before the other 49 people ahead of them. So again, rest assured, your items will always go to your patrons before anyone else. If there is a hold queue, but none of your patrons are in the hold queue, if your item is checked in, it will just trap for the first person in the list. So again, items will always go for your patrons first. If you have no patrons waiting for that item, it will trap for the first patron in the hold queue. So the first way to place holds that we're going to go over is how to place a hold from the bib record. This is probably the most common way that you will place a hold. When you place a hold from the bib level, that hold can be filled by any item attached to that record, as long as the item is holdable to that patron. So the first thing I'm going to do here is search for a title. So I'm going to search for A Man Called Otto. So I'm going to use the quick search box to launch that search into the Find tool. So let's say my patron is looking for the DVD of A Man Called Otto. So here in my search results, it looks like the DVD record is right here up at the top. So I can double click that record to open. Now from here, I can check and just see, are my library's copies available? And it does look like Mount Prospect has a copy available. But for the sake of this demo, let's pretend they were all checked out. To place a hold on this record, you will go up to the top of the bib record and click the Actions button. From the Actions button, you will select Place Hold, and this will open up the Find tool. Now here in the Find tool, we will go ahead and search for the patron that wants to place the request. So there are a few ways to search for a patron. The easiest way to search for a patron is probably by their barcode. And you may have a policy that you only will search for a patron or look at their record using their barcode. But if you do allow staff to search for a patron by their name, you can also choose to search for them that way. In today's demo, I'm just going to go ahead and type in my patron's barcode and initiate that search. So here we have my test patron. I can confirm this is the correct patron that I want to place the hold for, and then I'll double click their record. Now we are redirected to the Holds tab of the patron we've selected to place the hold for. So let's take a look at this hold request screen. There are a few things to notice here. First, on the left-hand side, we can see the activation date, or the date that the hold was placed. It's set to today. Then we have the expiration date for the request. Now, holds in Polaris are set to expire after a period of 2 years. Hopefully, the hold will be filled within 2 years. If not, it will move into an expired status. The next field is the pickup location. So this will default to the branch that you are currently logged into, but your patrons will be able to pick up their hold at any CCS location. So if the patron would like, you can change that to a different library. Now below the pickup branch, we can see information about the title. So this has been pulled in from the bibliographic record that we placed the hold on. So we don't need to make any modifications here. And then when we're ready, everything looks good, we can click that green place hold button. And then we'll see that green toast confirming that the hold request was created. So if I go down, we see my hold here on a man called Otto. And we can see that I am currently 10th in the queue. Now here we are in my patrons holds tab. So let's just take a minute to look at this holds list and all of the information that we can see here about these requests. Again, we can see I have 9 holds. We can see information about those holds. So things like the title, the format, and the status, as well as the pickup location. And the queue, if there's currently a hold queue. So you can see here that my 9 holds have a lot of different statuses assigned to them. So I want to take a little bit of time to go over what all of those means. A requested status means that the patron or staff have submitted the hold request, but there isn't currently a copy available to fill the hold. So requested means this hold is kind of hanging out here in their record, and there's no copy right now, but again, the system will keep searching for one. And this most commonly, you'll see the status when there is a hold queue, or it's an on order title, meaning it's not out yet. Now moving down, we can see I have a few holds with a status of locating. Locating means that a copy of the title has been marked for that hold and it's been placed on someone's pick list. So for these Lord of the Rings titles and A Man Called Otto, there is an available copy and a copy has been placed on a library's pick list. So likely this request is going to be filled soon. Now shipped means that a copy has been pulled and has been sent in transit to the patron's pickup library. So for my copy of The Hunger Games, a copy currently has been shipped. So it's on its way and hopefully should arrive in a couple of days. Now here we see a status of canceled. It means that either staff or patron canceled the request, so the patron no longer wanted it. And then here I have a couple of holds that are ready for pickup, meaning that these items are currently on the hold shelf. And if I go all the way to the right of these 2 holds, we can see a date. And this is the date, the hold until date. So the date to which these items will be held for this patron on the hold shelf. Now there are a couple of statuses that we don't see here. When a patron does not come in to pick up their hold by the date listed, that hold will move from ready for pickup to unclaimed. So if you see an unclaimed status, it means the item was on the hold shelf for the patron, but they didn't come to pick it up within the time period. You may also see a hold request with a status of unable to fill, and that means that the item the hold request is expired. So it reached that 2-year expiration date and wasn't filled. This really doesn't happen very often, but just be aware that that is a status that exists. One last status is unfillable. Unfillable happens when a patron or a staff member places a request on an item that they're not allowed to check out. So let's say I'm a staff member, I place a request for a patron on a hotspot from another CCS library, but that library doesn't share their hotspots. I would see that hold move to unfillable because there's no eligible item to fill that hold. Again, that's a pretty rare status to see, but if you run across it, it's helpful to recognize it. See if we got any questions cooking here. None yet. All right, so since we are already in the patron, oh, yes, a question. How long does an unclaimed status stay in the patron's record? That is a really good question. The unclaimed hold would stay in their record until circulation staff or staff processing the hold shelf remove the item from the hold shelf and check it in. Once staff pull that item off the hold shelf because the patron didn't come get it and they check it in, that hold will move from unclaimed to canceled. And then once it's canceled, it will stay in their account for 2 weeks. That was a great question. Keep them coming if you've got more. All right, so let's go through how to place a request right here from the patron's account. So I am in my patron record and I am in the holds tab. And if I look to the top left of my holds screen, I'll see a new hold button. If I click that, it will open up the holds request page or this blank holds request form. So the first thing I do from here is identify a title to place on hold. So you can search for a title using the title search box, or you can click the find tool to launch a search from there. So let's say I'm looking for the complete cookbooks for young chefs. I will type in my search string and click that search icon, and then I'll go through my search results to find the title I'm looking for. So let's say it is this second one here. I'll double click that title. And once I do that, now I will see in my hold request all of the title information completed. Here again, I will confirm all of the information above, especially that pickup location. And when I'm ready, I'll click that place hold button to successfully place that hold request. So we can see here my request for the complete cookbook for young chefs, and it's currently locating, meaning a library has an item on the shelf and is kind of in the process of pulling that for the patron. So that was placing a hold from the bib level, from the patron level. But we want to talk about two other holds in kind of our last 15 minutes here. We have item level holds and volume level holds. So most of the time for patrons, you always want to place a bib level hold. When you place the bib level hold, any item attached to that bib record can fill the hold. However, sometimes staff might need to request a specific item record for repair, like a hotspot. And so perhaps you want to place that specific item on hold. When you place an item level hold, only that specific item or specific barcode will fill that hold request. So to place an item level hold, you're going to search for that item. So let's say, oops, let's see, maybe your library has, maybe Mount Prospect has some hotspots. I bet you do. Let's see. So let's say I need to request a specific hotspot back. Because, I don't know, it's overdue or we need to check on it and do some sort of maintenance with it. So you'll search for that item. So here I search for it by finding the bib record. And then let's say it's this specific item barcode. You could also just search for the item barcode and open up that item directly. Now here I am in this item record. This is the hotspot that I want to make sure gets back to me. From this item record, I will click the Actions menu and click Place Hold. Now, because I have my patron account open in the background, Leap is very kindly saying, hey, do you want to place the hold for this patron you're already working with? Now, if this is the correct patron, I can select them and click OK. If it's not, I can use the Find tool to find the right patron. So here, I'm going to click OK. Now, in my hold request screen, again, it's opened up this hold tab in the patron record. To the right, we can see that this hold request now has a barcode filled out. So this is saying that only this specific barcode can fill this hold request. So I'm going to go ahead and click Place Hold, and my hold request has been created. Now, in my list of holds, we can see that we have my mobile hotspot hold, but all the way to the left, there is a book icon. This is telling me that my hold is an item level hold, and it can only be filled by a specific item record. So again, you can place item level holds as a staff member, but just be careful that really it's just for staff specific purposes. For patrons, you always want to give them the best chance possible of having their request filled. So it's best to place a bib level hold in that scenario. So the last kind of hold I want to cover is a volume specific hold. Oop, and I got a question. Oh, Anne, you are right on it. Anne asked, can we show how to put a hold on just one periodical volume? And yes, that is what I'm going to show you next. We are going to cover how to place a volume specific hold. So you would place a volume specific hold when, for example, you're placing a hold on, let's say, a magazine or maybe a manga that has multiple volumes attached to a record. So I'm just going to do that here from the patron record. I'm going to click this new hold button. I'm going to use the Find tool to search for the title I'm looking for. So let's say we're looking for Food Network magazine. So I'm going to initiate my search. I'm going to find the correct record to place the request on. In this case, I'm looking for the magazine. So I'm going to look for the format of periodical. Once you've found that matching record, you'll open up that title, verify all the information looks correct, including that pickup location, and I'll click Place Hold. Now, because this is a multi-issue record, we've got several items, all with different issues, I will run into this serial multi-volume hold screen. Here I am being prompted to either request any item. So if I click the Request Any Item, it doesn't matter the volume or the issue, Polaris will just pick one to fill my hold. But much more helpful in this scenario is the ability to request a specific issue or volume. So here I will toggle that radio button, and from my drop-down list, I will find the issue that the patron or I want. So let's say I'm looking for February, March 2024. Now note here there is a bug impacting this dropdown. It's displaying multiple versions of the same issue. It doesn't matter which one you pick. You can pick any of them. Again, it will still look at all of the items with that specific issue. Once you've picked that issue, you'll click Continue, and then your request will be placed. So here, if I look at my Food Network hold, we can see it's specifically on the February, March 2024 issue. So any copy with that issue can fill my hold. So you no longer need to place item level holds when you're working with serials or multi-volume sets. It's very handy. So that was kind of a walkthrough of how to place bib holds, holds from the patron record, item level hold, and volume level holds. So now that we've walked through all of those, I'm going to talk about a couple additional actions that you can take with a specific hold. You can actually cancel, reactivate, suspend, and resume holds. So let me show you how to do that. So let's say the patron comes to the library and they say, you know what, I know I have this on hold, a man called Otto. I don't actually need that because, my friend's going to lend me their copy. To cancel a hold, you'll simply check the box to the left of that hold and then click the cancel button. And then the hold is canceled. So here is my A Man Called Otto hold. We can see now the status moved from locating to canceled. Now let's say then the patron is like, ooh, just kidding. They can't lend me their copy or they won't be able to give it to me for 3 weeks and I still want that item. You can very easily reactivate a canceled hold by checking the box to the left, and then up at the top, there is a reactivate button. You can just easily reactivate that hold for the patron if they still decided they wanted it. Now, a canceled hold will stay in a patron's account for 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks to reactivate a hold that has been canceled, and then that canceled hold will go away. Now, if a patron um, wants to suspend a hold, perhaps they're going on vacation and the item's not going to come in before they go, but they don't want to lose their place in the queue while they're gone. So they just want to make sure an item doesn't come in while they're out of town. To suspend a hold, you'll simply check the box to the left of that hold to suspend, or if you want, you can actually check multiple at a time if they have multiple holds that they're worried might come in while they're gone. We'll check the box to the left, and then you'll click that suspend reactivate button. When you click that button, you will see a calendar pop up, and then you can pick the day they want to suspend their request till. So maybe I'm just going to be out of town for like a week and a half, and I want to suspend my hold till August 22nd. You'll find that date in the calendar and then click Update Activation Date. And then we can see now that my Lord of the Rings hold now has a status of paused and a new activation date of August 22nd. That means that until August 22nd, no item will trap from my hold. On August 22nd, my hold will be moved back into like the active holds queue and will again become eligible for an item to fill it. Now, if the patron comes back from their vacation early and they want to unsuspend the hold, you can very easily, again, do that right here from their account. Just check the box next to that paused request, click that suspend reactivate button, and then select today's date to unsuspend the hold and make it active again. And then again, it will just move back into the queue and an item could now become eligible to fill that request. Okay, so we've got 7 minutes left. So if you have questions, get them into the chat now before we come to the end. I just want to show you a couple other things here before we end the session. The first thing I want to go through, or one of the last things I suppose I want to go through, is how you can view the hold request record. So now here in the holds tab of the patron, you've got lots of really great information about that holds request, but maybe you want to dive a little bit deeper into that request. You can click any of these holds in the patron account to view more information about that request in the hold request record. So here I am in this hold request record. We know that because in the upper left-hand corner, it says hold request. Up in the top of this hold request record, we have some basic info about this request, including the date it was placed, the origin. Now it will say library if the request was placed by a staff member, and it will say patron if the patron placed it themselves in the catalog. We can see information about the patron, including their barcode name and registered library. Now here we can see additional information about this request. So if the patron decides they want to pick up the request at Mount Prospect South Branch, you can open that request record, change the pickup location, and then save it. So now the pickup location is the South Branch, and if an item becomes available, it will be routed to that location for the patron. The Satisfied tab will contain a list of all of the items eligible to fill this hold. And then if you look at the history, you can also see some basic information about what has happened so far with this hold. When the hold was placed, when it went on someone's pick list, if it was trapped, canceled, and so on. And you can also see the staff member that completed that action. Now, if you want to view the hold queue, you can easily do that here from the hold request record. And I might go back to one that has a little bigger of a hold queue. I'm going to open up the mobile hotspot record. So here from that hold request record, I can open up the links menu and click hold queue. The hold queue will tell us, it will give us essentially a list of every patron who is currently in the queue or on the wait list for this title. There are 2 columns to the hold queue. In the queue, these are all of the holds that are currently actively being filled. And then in the all requests, you'll also see some additional statuses like paused or unclaimed. So all hold requests includes like inactive statuses, and then the queue list includes all of those that are active. Now here in the queue, you do have access to modify the hold queue. So you can move, let's say, a staff member up or down. You can jump them to the top or even the bottom of the hold queue. Now, be mindful when you're modifying the hold queue. Per our governing board policies, library staff shouldn't reorder the queue unless there is a special situation on that. So if there is a mistake, a hold was accidentally canceled, staff, inadvertently cancel the hold and the patron dropped off the list. In those special scenarios, yes, you can replace the hold in the queue, but on a day-to-day basis, we shouldn't be modifying patrons' place in the queue. So just a heads up there. And I see a question come in. Will the patron be able to change hold times and pick a place, etc.? Yes, so the patron in PowerPack will be able to suspend their holds if they want to, and they can modify their pickup location as well, provided the hold has not been shipped yet. So they won't be able to change the pickup location if the hold is already en route to the original pickup location. Good question. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go out of that hold queue and pause and see what other questions we might have. We got 3 more minutes. This flew by. We covered a lot of stuff. Since there's no questions in the chat yet, I'm going to go ahead and I'll show you one other cool holds function here in Leap, which is the ability to group holds. So let's say that, patrons, they sometimes they don't care if they get the Blu-ray or the DVD. But they want to place holds on both because they want to get whichever one's going to come in faster. So in Polaris, you actually have the ability to group holds together so that whichever item comes in first will satisfy both of those holds. So here in my account, this patron's account, they have a hold on the Blu-ray version of the Two Towers, as well as the DVD version of the Two Towers. So let's say they don't care. They just want one. They don't actually want both. And they just want whichever one will come in first. In their account, in their holds tab, I can select both of those holds. And from my menu, I can select Add to Group. What this is going to do, I'm just going to resort that, is add these 2 holds to the same group. And then as soon as an item comes in from either of these records to fill the hold, both holds will be considered satisfied. So Polaris will automatically fill both of those holds with that single item that comes in. So in our other previous training sessions, we were talking about how that could be really handy, for example, like summer reading lists. Like the patron doesn't care which title they get, they just need one from the list, so you can place all the holds, group them together, and then as soon as one copy comes in, it will satisfy all of those holds. So a really fun feature that you can take advantage of here. So that was a whirlwind session of 2 hours. Thank you so much for sticking with me for as we walk through all of those functions and features in Leap. We are now at the end of our 2 hours, so we'll wrap up this training session. But we did record it, and as I mentioned and Michelle mentioned, we do have some activity sheets that we'll share out with all of you so that you can take some time to rewatch the recording if you want and just practice your skills. So again, thank you so much everyone for coming today. We really appreciate it. And if you have questions, feel free to send them our way. Thank you so much.